All right, welcome everybody. We're live again, and sorry for the delay for everybody watching live. We're actually not doing too bad. Or wait, were we supposed to start this an hour ago, or was this one time?
Yeah, I think it's on time.
Okay, I forget what the times change and everything.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
yeah,
we're
we're
good.
talking about Shot Show each week. Brought Clover chatting with Clover out of Texas. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, you bet.
And let me close a bunch of stuff that I had on the screen here. We're going to be talking about gear this time, specifically cameras, electronic gear, recording gear, and support gear for that. Whatever else you might need. Like I like to throw flashlights and that kind of hearing pro. I think we kind of covered some of this in past in the series in the past, but we get off on tangents and kind of let ourselves go off on different topics because our goal here is to give people some insight of the show and for people that are attending some tips and tricks, right, to answer questions that come in as we're live. So thanks to the people joining us live. And people that join or watch the show in the future, feel free to leave some questions or contact one of us. I've had some questions. I'm going to try to think of them. Have you gotten any specific questions about SHOT Show before we dig into the gear again?
Yeah, I've had questions over the last couple of months, but as far as something coming to mind, not really. The registration part of it is probably more than anything. What the questions I get is like, hey, I'm registering. What's going on? How do I go about doing this? And so, I would say it's important to do that. I know some people that are having some issues with registrations that did not contact me beforehand, or they acted all like, "Oh, I know how to do it. I don't need anybody's help," and now they're having issues with registration. And I'm not going to mention any names because no sense in doing that. But I'm just saying that to say that even if you think you know what you're doing, um, it's nice to run things by somebody else just to make sure and make that process a little easier. But yeah, other than registration, not really, haven't really had a whole lot of issues. I mean, since we're talking about some of the gear today, I can relate an issue over to the Tulsa show this weekend. It's something that I kind of ran into, but we'll jump into that when we get more into the gear, I suppose.
Right on. As far as questions coming in, mine have been sort of either in reaction to stuff we've already said, somewhere like clarifications, I guess, or that kind of thing, or uh, like you said, kind of having to do with a specific place that somebody's at. And right now, everybody's at registration, but some people are at other kind of planning, maybe a hotel or something like that. Um, so we have had some conversations about that stuff, and maybe a thing to add to the list of things to talk about for topics for this weekly kind of conversation or series would be the various options for how to stay and how to tackle it. We kind of addressed it, but we haven't gotten any specifics, and people that might be registered and hopefully now making the reservations if they haven't already. That might be kind of on topic for their pace. That's the way to say it. But
Yeah. And it's
okay, so
hard to be and it's hard to be too specific, and that's where we get off on the tangents. We were talking about those earlier because we're totally open to questions and things out there in the live chat. That's the whole point of doing things live, is to have that interaction and engagement. But the issue that you run into is each individual creator or whoever it is that may be going to SHOT Show has their own reasons, their own background, their own budget, their own goals, whatever the case may be. And so things are going to be specific to that particular person. And they may be different for the next person and different for the next person, and so on and so forth. So, it's why the engagement is important. And if you do have specific questions, get them down in a comment or something like that, because we may not be thinking on that level. We're not thinking about all the different ways in which people can go to SHOT Show to complete their goals, or whatever, to meet their goals. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, moving forward.
I think that as far as gear, then let's start with the you have tos and move out to the would be nices or maybes, or you need a if or when, right? So if you're thinking of the no matter who you're talking to, everybody's got to have what kind of core list of equipment? Is that a way to start?
Yep. Yep. Going to depend on how you want to tackle it. I would see a given big three. I'm gonna go big three with this, right? As far as gear. Um, and when you hear gear, I'm thinking electronics. Um, so I'm thinking some type of way to record video, because I don't want to get super specific. Some type of way to record video, some type of way to record audio. And if you're by yourself, which I think the vast majority of creators probably are, um, you're going to need a tripod. You're going to need a mount. You're going to need a stabilizer, some type of device to hold and house that stuff, so to speak. So that would be my big three. You need to get that.
I can't tell if it hung up or not. I think it hung up. I think it was hanging up as I was trying to swipe, and my phone's getting to be either cold or old or something. Anyhow, so I mean, I guess I'm not as far as into the tripod and stuff. I would consider that extra. So that you right away you gave it a caveat if you're by yourself, right? So core stuff, no matter what, you've got taking care of yourself, so self care, and then assistance, aid to others. I think those are what I start off with. And then when we're talking about shot, you're traveling, because that we're going to assume nobody lives in Vegas. If you live in Vegas, you don't. This is not an issue for you, right? But everybody else is traveling, and you're either traveling in an airplane, which severely limits what you're going to have available, and if you're in a car, you've got the double-edged sword with you can bring anything you want, but do you really want anything you need, right? That's you don't want to bring everything in the kitchen sink, and you don't want to bring nothing. So having that core stuff, I'm thinking a flashlight for sure. I mean, some kind of a tool, but doesn't have to be like a fighting knife. I don't really anticipate getting into some kind of brawl at SHOT Show. I mean, I've gone there 18 years. There hasn't been so much as a negligent discharge. It's not impossible, but we're not getting attacked at SHOT Show. And worst case scenario, there's something within reach at SHOT Show you can use to defend yourself on the way out the building, or you can get out of there. There's like a billion ways to squirt out into Vegas, and there's not too worried about SHOT Show. But a fire, or I don't know if earthquakes can happen, but if something fell over or something, whatever, something weird happened, getting out of a building, I'm thinking flashlights. And again, like I'm not bringing escape tools, because something like that you can grab from SHOT Show, but stuff like that. So then first aid, I think a SWAT tourniquet at a minimum. That's the big rubber band thing. That's smaller than a pack of cigarettes. A wallet and some emergency cash. I think having, what would you say is an adequate amount of cash to have with you for a SHOT Show trip? Like not just for buying stuff at the gun show, but like just to have an emergency for for Vegas.
A couple hundred minimum.
Yeah, but like in a whole bunch of 20s and 5s, because you got to know, like if you're not playing the game of life where smoke breaks and giving somebody $5 for something that you didn't anticipate, it's just karma, and it's just living a good life. Like one time I forgot what it was. Something happened in the back end of wasn't the brakes. I think the bearing broke on our transmission on the cop car. And, I was leaking fluid out of the transmission in the back and blah, blah, blah. And I go to a place and they fill it up and give me pretty much I can get home, or at least I can get a good ways, and I gave them $20. And then, you don't anticipate something like that, but being able to give somebody $20 when they have given you $20 worth of service, or maybe even $100 worth of value. And I mean, it's just being you just got to have some money. I mean, now, you're going to Vegas, even if you don't need it, like you need that to have available, right?
Yeah, when you're talking about your emergency cash or your extra cash, do you, and I agree with you in having it in multiple denominations, not in large bills, do you tend to split that up and have that in varying locations, or I don't know, or let me back up, not what you do, not what you do, but
I like patches, razor blades, and cash. And if you have a patch and you take a razor blade to the Velcro part of it and split it right down the middle, what you'll end up with is a subtle wallet that can carry anything from a razor blade to some cash. What are you going to have? How many patches do you have? There might be something behind Molly or something. There's some ways to fold stuff into behind Molly, behind a pouch.
Right.
Definitely ways that you can have stuff. You want to have like that tourniquet in your ankle by itself, or do you want to put something in there with that tourniquet on your very comfortable wilderness tactical ankle rig? Do I have
Yeah,
to
I'm a.
quiet these puppies down? Are they making such a ruckus over here fighting over that bone that I need to do something? Because this
Uh,
seems like it's getting me.
they're not too bad, but yeah, I'm a big advocate of having stuff in multiple locations, different pockets, different hiding places, whatever the case may be. I think it's important to remember, where you put that. I have
That's
made
good.
trips before, got home, and been cleaning out for the next trip and find money. It's always a good day when you find money like that. But it's like, oh snap, there's a $20 bill I forgot I stuffed in this little hidden pocket somewhere.
So as far as basics, a second, if you wear eyeglasses or you take medications, a second, maybe not on you, but like have it comfortably nearby stage so that you're not gonna, hinder yourself if something like glasses or medication gets displaced or lost, or you can anticipate getting soaked and everything on your person is just wet and it was all your good gear or maybe only gear. Now you're sourcing gear in Vegas. It's totally easy. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like we're going out into the wilderness. It's just for convenience sake and being able to stay on point and get your job done and be comfortable and able while everybody else is worrying about their blister, going out looking for the cheap Walgreens. You know what? I didn't get coffee before the show. They're fighting over here, and now they've decided they both have to have water, and the water's empty. So I'm going to have to let Clover take over for a bit and be back in for
Yeah,
coffee
that's fine.
maintenance.
I'll talk a little bit here about non-electronic gear and my top three on that. And so I think that, tourniquet, we've talked about that. I think tourniquet is one of those things. So, definitely breaks the top three for me. Flashlight, I think definitely breaks the top three for me. I don't know where I come down on the idea of like a USB rechargeable or a flashlight that has, you can put fresh batteries in. I've really come around. Once upon a time, I did not like flashlights that took that were USB rechargeable because I felt that you could just real quickly swap some batteries and be back in the game if you, especially if you've got a single AAA or single AA little flashlight, right? Real easy to carry that extra battery, swap it out and go. Whereas with USB, um, potentially, it's got to sit there for hours and charge, right? And some of my Streamlights do charge pretty quickly. They charge within a couple of hours, but still, when you're down, I mean, if it goes out, what do you do, right? Um, and then I think the next, I mean, some people may think, pocket knife or whatever, but I think multi-tool. Um, Now, when you get into the multi-tool, you got to be careful with the flying aspect of it, obviously. So a lot of that stuff you can check, but you're not going to be able to do carry on. Um, but a multi-tool, I think that you got to look at a few things um, with with the flashlight, with the multi-tool, even with the tourniquet. Are there those things at SHOT Show on the floor, in booths, in displays, that sort of thing? And the answer to that is yes. The problem is, depending on what goes on, if you're talking about being at the show, you may not be around any of those places, right? And so, what happens if you're downstairs? If you're downstairs and things go dark, I mean, except for maybe some emergency lighting that's battery powered, of course, an EMP would render all of that useless anyway. And we're talking about a really weird scenario, but it's going to be pitch dark for the most part, except for things that maybe glow in the dark. You're not gonna be able to see anything. So I mean, you need access to that stuff immediately, and know where it's at, and be able to get to it in the dark for the most part. So you'll being familiar with your bag, and what pockets, things are, where they're at, that sort of thing. Um, so yeah, tourniquet, flashlight, multi-tool. I think the point you made earlier when we were talking about the electronic gear, camera, microphone. Uh, Mounting device, tripod, cradle, gimbal, selfie stick, whatever,
Do you
whatever it might
carry
be.
a lens wipe
There we go.
like a some kind of I don't know if it's
Microfiber cloth.
microfibers? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I carry one anyway because of glasses, right? So yeah, I do have.
Oh, see, I never even use that kind of stuff on my glasses. My glasses get way too dirty, so I save those for my camera lenses because I barely, I never even use them except for like a quick wipe on a camera lens to keep them
Yeah.
nice. But the
Yeah.
thing is, it's almost one of those things that you don't need to bring because somebody will be having them at SHOT Show.
Oh yeah.
Murphy's Law, though, the one year you depend on that, you'll never get one again, right? There'll be the year that
Eh,
they are
right.
shortage of them or something.
Yeah.
But grab a couple because that's definitely a free thing.
Well, I've got one that's really cool, and it you're right. It come from a show, and I don't remember what show it was. I think maybe it was an NRA show, but it's a microfiber cloth that folds in on itself. Basically, you've seen that with pillows and blankets and other
Oh
things,
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess.
It's got like a pillowcase, and
Yeah,
it kind of goes back into its own
yeah,
pillowcase.
and
I
then
think.
it's got a carabiner clip on it, so it's hooked to
It's
my
like a
bag.
handkerchief or a towel, but it goes up into this little thing. So it's like
Folds,
a
yeah, it folds in where it's smaller, and it's all hanging out there getting dirty. And then
yeah,
yeah, it's got a
perfect
little.
like a range bag zipper pull or
Oh
something,
yeah,
or like
yeah,
you put that on
that's
a
where it's at.
what do they
Yeah.
call that? Like kind of like a tape measure. The little re- retracting cord. You can get those little pulls at cheap store,
Yeah, you can.
cheap
Yeah,
hardware store,
yeah.
and you have your like wipe on something like that.
Or D rings on a lot of backpacks. You have D rings here and there for adding various compartments and straps and things. So you can hang it on one of those. But yeah, I got one of those and it works great.
When we're talking self care, I think chapstick is a big one. We're in
Oh
dry
yeah.
land, dry place,
Yep.
and um, sun for range day, and then I'll just probably a lot of talking and just being in a dry place, and then just whatever for whatever reason seems like even I don't usually use chapstick at all. I know people that have chapstick in their pocket constantly. I barely use it except for if I'm out in the middle of summer or doing something out in the middle of nowhere. I will because I've lived chap lip life. I understand why it exists, but I just don't do anything where I need it usually. But at SHOT Show, I'll put chapstick on every day. I don't know why, but again, probably just the difference in their humidity and ours because we're not as dry as Nevada. And I got to assume everybody else gets an even bigger dose of that dryness or something. But hand sanitizer, even without your concerns about whatever, you're just shaking so many hands and touching things that who knows what somebody was doing before they touched the thing you just got done fiddling with, right? There's not too many opportunities to wash your hands, but that's something I guess we can. It's not really gear, but there are bathrooms in there, and even if you're not going to the bathroom, take an opportunity to just go wash your hands. It's nice, you know what I'm saying? It's like just good with as much people are going on. I think I'm not saying I've scientifically tested it, but it seems like a theory that if you wash your hands kind of whenever you're walking past a bathroom or you think about it, even when you don't think your hands are dirty, you probably get less chance of getting some kind of SHOT Show cough. Um, the shaking hands or whatever, and then I don't know what the number is. How many times we touch our face, wipe our eyes, just in normal.
It's a lot. But yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just normal life. And there you're again dry face and whatever, so you probably don't even realize that kind of thing. So anyway, the hand sanitizer, I can see that. And again, I don't usually use hand sanitizer, but I will usually grab somebody's free bottle of it, put it on a carabiner, and try to. Hey! He just went outside. See, I catch him. I have to watch him all the time because he's got that little boy dog situation where he's like, well, I'm standing here anyway, and I do have a thing in me, so he didn't want to go, but anyway. Maybe he does got to go. Maybe we're going to take another break, let Clover talk about cameras more, or the time. Maybe you could talk about your evolution from cameras. From you started with your phone, I should say, and that whole like setup that you've kind of set up in Wanamaker and go into the museums
Mhm.
and doing like the other shows, and then your transition from that to what you use now. And I guess I will take this guy out because he just turned to make his business.
Right. Well, I mean, I can't address the chat, but I do Millthorpe Duo out there. Just what Bluetooth microphone do you recommend for recording videos on your phone? I do not use a Bluetooth microphone. Um, I don't know. Now, if you're talking about Bluetooth, I don't know of one that's worth a flip. That is a microphone that connects directly with Bluetooth. Obviously, you got headsets and you've got earbuds and you've got things like that, right? As far as actual, production quality type stuff, I don't know. I don't know of any that work directly off Bluetooth that yeah, that worked very well. Anytime you've got Bluetooth enabled, it's the other thing with your phone you got to realize is you're draining more battery. Um, Bluetooth can be a really big battery drainer, so got to keep that in mind too. Um, so I recommend, you know, things that you plug in. Now that doesn't mean you run wires and cables. You can get a, you know, 15, $20 corded plug-in lavalier mic and do okay. But and obviously if you're running like a shotgun microphone or something like that, that's going to be, you know, direct plug-in with a cord most times. Um, but you know, they do make quite a few, whether it's Rode, Sarmonic, Boya, or even some of the other, you know, cheaper companies out there. They do make ones that you know, you plug into the lightning port or the USB-C, and that's your would be your receiver, I guess. And then, you know, the sets come with either one or two transmitters, and those are wireless. They work typically they're RF, and they work between each other. So, for me, gonna was gonna talk about this a little later, but for me, I'm a big fan of the Sarmonic set, the Sarmonic stuff, Saramonic, Saramonic. Um, Getting back to what G was alluding to though, real quickly, and we'll get more into that maybe Milsurp when G gets back. But yeah, when he's talking about my evolution, so I started out with, um, I started out using some cameras, and I found out real quickly it was mostly like handy cams type stuff and things like that, and just the resolution. And I did not like the way that they handled light. I did not like the weight and the bulk and a lot of the other things. And then so I decided to go to phones, and then from there I went to, you know, I got into, okay, well, I've got a phone, but it's on a gimbal, which is attached to a monopod to help me, you know, hold it more stable. And then, you know, I've got, what are they called? Flash brackets or flash, you know, where you screw the things, uh, can hook accessories to stuff, right? Um, you know that, and then you know just kind of added onto there that I had. Okay, we've got a front camera and a rear camera, right? And just did a lot of weird stuff like that. And you know, it was one of them things to where, you know, I had all the cameras before, and I had to worry about batteries with that, yes, and I had to worry about, you know, all of these moving parts and pieces and bulk and everything else. And I went simple, and then I made the simple complex by adding a bunch of other junk to it. And so, you know, I've evolved from there to where it's like, okay, let's go even simpler, right? Like I don't want front and rear cameras. I don't want a contraption that's holding light bars and microphones and all this stuff. I want all my components for gathering, capturing that media to be as small and compact and lightweight as I possibly can, and preferably things, you know, when we're talking about phones, for example, that I already have in my pocket anyway. Um, you know, it simplifies the charging process. If you need to charge things, it simplifies, you know, and speaking of charging things, since we're talking about gear real quick, and it looks like G may be back. Um, One of the things that I do, and I don't know if anybody else does this, I will charge stuff while I'm charging my battery banks. And I don't know if anybody else does this or not, but I will plug my battery bank in so that it charges. And the port that does that is different than the ports that it supplies power to. And so I will plug gear into my battery bank while my battery bank is charging. And in essence, you can charge, you know, two, three things, however many ports I guess your battery bank has, at one time. It's like a cascade. So just a little tip on charging gear that, you know, eliminates the need for extra power outlet. What am I thinking? Adapters and things like that a lot of times. And it will allow you to, if you're near some place and you need to charge your phone, for example, um, you can plug it all in at one time, and it's not a big huge mess. So just a way to handle gear. Chief's back though, so jump in here.
So you talked about your setup before, like what you started. Well, I don't know if you started with it, but what you kind of your first, or at that, I'm gonna call it your first iteration or whatever with
Right.
the, I don't know what you call that. Where did he go? Oh, um, He's driving me nuts. He's sitting here 1 second wanting to touch, be in my lap, and then he books when
Just
he's
being a
going
puppy.
somewhere and peeing. Yeah, exactly. Um, but you didn't talk about necessarily where it evolved into. So my question is not so much, because the details are your details, right? But the reason you changed it, was that because it was too much of a burden physically, like you didn't want to carry it around, or was it because when you meet somebody, having to then, because this would be my thing, if I'm meeting somebody and I'm trying to have some kind of business with them, to then say, just let me pause here for a second and fiddle, right? That just gets to be
Right.
annoying, and it becomes like that step, and then it gives them a chance, or it
Yeah.
gives them necessity to go, oh, all right. So now they automatically have to be patient with you. Where if it's just, hey, do you mind if I take a picture of this? Sure. And I've already taken a picture of it and I'm out of there. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that's
Yeah.
that's so much faster. And I don't know if it's necessarily better or nothing. It's just that then I figure if you do need to set it all up,
Mhm.
having all of that. So I've always envied you guys with those fancy cameras, because I just don't have that stuff, right? I just never
Right.
wanted it. I never put any money into it. I don't have extra money to buy it or nothing. Every
Yeah.
once in a while I go, oh, it'd be neat to have all that for like that 6 pictures I want to take each year. But
Well,
that's the thing, is you've got that in your inventory now where you can go do some stuff. So anyway, I guess my question was, without getting too many tangents, was that an evolution based on you just didn't want to carry that stuff, or it was some
that's a
other
good.
influence?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. That was an evolution that paralleled the evolution of the way that I approach the show and seek the content. Right. Um, so it wasn't a causality type thing. Um, necessarily. I mean, it was certainly wasn't, necessary. It was just a byproduct of things, right? Hey, I'm going in this direction, and kind of everything else had to follow suit, got pulled along, because it was like, okay, I don't want to focus like the big camera setup gear and system and huge things that you have to, have storage for and batteries and worry about power, and it takes a long time to set up and all this other stuff. That's great if you're going in and you're doing booth reviews and you're doing, you're filming your content, A to Z, right? Filming your content there at a show. That's great. If that's your goal and that's what you're doing. So my goal shifted from, I just kind of thought, hey, that's what most people do at SHOT Show. I
Well, it's
thought
what you
going
wanted
in,
to do. That's, or
yeah,
did you
I
did
thought going
maybe I
in,
thought that. Did you think
well,
really that
no.
that's what everybody did, or is it just what you wanted to give a try to? I
Well, I
figured you just
mean,
wanted to try it.
yeah, I mean, you see that and you like that's a component, and right? And then you go in and you do that and you realize that, okay, well, I've done this, like after the first show or whatever. You do that and you realize, okay, I did this, but what, because I did this and then setting up the gear and then the time spent in that particular booth filming and all this other stuff, what else did I potentially miss out on, right?
Oh,
Because
that's a good thing. Yeah,
you
exactly.
only have a finite amount of time at SHOT Show.
Right. Like, this
Um,
is what I did. This is what I did with it. But what did I not do? And that's
right.
frustrating, because there's a million things you didn't do
And
always,
you
right?
don't know what you didn't get to, right? Or what you didn't see. And that's the thing. And then so, I evolved into a system of, let's be a lot more fluid. I can get the FaceTime with the people. I can establish those relationships. If they want me to do something quick, well, that's where the evolution in gear comes into play, to where it is, um, it's more simplified, right? So it's easier to tote around with me all the time. Smaller, more lightweight, more compact, easier, quicker to handle as far as charging and batteries. Um, and that's where I was going to talk about a new evolution into even my microphone setup. But making all that as small as possible, you can literally carry that stuff in your pockets. So anywhere you're at any given time, you have the ability to whip that stuff out and set it up. So you establish contact. Hey, we're going to get you on the schedule. Let's hit you up, get you on the schedule for a podcast later on. Let's talk about this. I have my phone in my pocket. Snap, 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 snap. I can get some pictures. I can throw those on Instagram. I can do this now. I can record a short, right? Can do all that kind of stuff right now. But maybe they say, hey, let's get over here in front of the banner, and talk about this new product. And I have the capability, because I do have the gear, and I've given thought into minimizing um, how much space it takes up and everything else. I've got all that with me. So, I've already got the phone. I can whip the microphones out. I can plug it in. I can clip one on them, clip one on me, turn it on, and go and actually do semi sorta do a booth review kind of on the fly. So,
And talk about the microphones, because I kind of know what you're talking about, but Milser literally asked the question, what Bluetooth microphone do you guys recommend for recording videos on a phone? So
yeah,
before you answer, let me go. Okay, so Milser, thanks for asking the question. Bluetooth, so obviously the Bluetooth is a wireless connection. So Bluetooth microphone, obviously microphone, right? For recording videos on the phone. So this sounds like he's looking for an option that can wirelessly incorporate with phone recording and be a microphone. Like if this was the person you're recording, it would be attached to their shirt like this so that it would be with them and listening to them and not all the ambient noise. Is that something? And then how do you answer that question?
yeah. When you stepped away, I did address that. But yeah, we'll go over it again.
Oh, okay.
I don't know of any when you're talking about like Bluetooth headsets or Bluetooth earbuds or whatever, right? Not optimal for, especially for, doing content booth review, especially interview and things like that, right? So when we get outside of that, when we're talking about Bluetooth, right, you're attaching nothing to your phone, right? You pair it up, whatever device it is, you pair it up with your phone. I don't know of anything, at least in what I would consider an acceptable price range. I don't know anything worth a flip as far as a shotgun microphone or a lavalier microphone that works directly through Bluetooth that's worth a flip. Like none. I don't know of any. I've looked for them because I don't necessarily like plugging things into my phone. It puts added wear on the jack. I wireless charge for the most part nowadays, and that's one reason why. Um, but that for optimal audio, I mean, plugging something into your phone is the way to go. Now, with that said, what I was pointing out earlier is there are options where you plug a receiver into your phone, right? That then pairs with the transmitters. And there's a ton of great options. Saramonic and Rode are two ways to go. Um, the Rode, I think it's the Video Go, I think is what they call it. And then with Saramonic, it's the Blink series. And that's what I have now. I have the Saramonic Blink. So it's a thing I plug into my phone, the a receiver, and then I've got two transmitters. I can put one on my let me get this blocked real quick. I could plug one into my or hook one onto my shirt or badge holder. I can hook one onto their shirt or badge holder, and I'm ready to go. Right? They pair up with that, or they pair up, I should say, with that receiver when you turn them on. And that was an evolution, right? I went from using shotgun mics, cheap shotgun mics or I went actually from using the audio on the phone to using wired lavalier mics to using cheap shotgun mics to using more expensive shotgun mics to now wireless lavaliers. And even in Tulsa, the gun snob had a different version of the microphones that I'm using, the little wireless lavalier mics that are much, much smaller in size. And so that's going to be another progression I'm going to make here very soon. I got to come up with the money to make that switch, but that will happen because they're literally half the size, if that. And currently, with the setup, I need an adapter cable. Currently, and with that setup, the new smaller Saramonic Blink Go, I think is what they're called. Um, they're smaller, they're lighter weight, they charge quicker, and they require no extra cabling or adapter cables or anything, right? So just a more simplified, lightweight thing. And so that's again that goes back into my evolution as to where I want to go. But he goes on. Milsurp Duo did go on out there to say that yeah, he's looking for. He says, "Yeah, I'm looking for a good setup for shop this year."
I mean, it's
Um,
a noisy room. We've kind of mentioned it in earlier shows. Go whatever you choose to go with. Go practice. Go to some noisy gun show or some noisy event and record. Right. Go to anywhere and just record and get used to recording and then playing with the edits or
yeah.
whatever. But just to summarize, because I was getting that answer too. There is no phone Lavalar mic option like he wanted. Like something that you just Bluetooth it to your phone, put the microphone on the
there
other person.
are, but it's like your headsets and your Bluetooth earbuds is they're not good.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. So if I've got, I don't have it here. I've got a inexpensive wireless earbud things because I wanted to, they're $10. So literally inexpensive. I wanted to check them out and they work. But if you had a good set or whatever, if you put the left one in your ear and the right one in the other person's ear, do they both have microphones? Would that be effectively a lavalier mic right away, or would it need something more elaborate than that?
I don't think the ones I've seen, there's only a microphone in one of the earbuds.
Okay, not both ears, just
Yeah.
one ear or the other. Okay.
Yeah. The ones that I've seen. I'm not saying that there's not any. I'm not big into all of that. So I mean there may be.
Yeah, because that could be an option perhaps on something. And then who would want to stick a thing in their ear, but they might want to hold it or something. They wouldn't have to listen from it or whatever.
That's true, but again, you're talking about like a hygiene thing of sticking
Yeah.
something in somebody's ear. I don't know that they'd want to do that, but if it was an over the ear style design or something like that, it might be different. Like the call centers use or something, type thing.
Well, I was going to say, I think I've even heard of people having objections to putting something on their head, and it might be a hair thing or just a whatever, whoever that, it doesn't matter. Like you're asking them a favor,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about their issues. Like you
Yeah.
want to make sure that you're not
Right.
touching any of their issues.
With the Rode and the Saramonic sets, and again for the money, I go Saramonic every time. They just clip on, right? It's a little. I don't even know what we would think, but I mean, it's literally has a little clip, and it clips on. It's that simple. And you can clip it to a tie, you can clip it to, the where you button up your shirt, you can clip it to a collar, you can clip it to a badge holder in a show situation. There's a lot of different ways of going about that. It makes it easy. It just clips to them. It's really quick. You don't got to run cables up through, clothing and or anything like that to try to make it look good.
And that was
Yeah.
all for battery packs, or was that for old remote control or the old transmitter parts were bigger and they needed to be on your belt?
Yeah, a lot of them were bigger, and don't get me wrong, the ones I'm talking about from Saramonic and Rode, they do have the option of having a wired lavalier. In other words, you can plug a wired microphone into the transmitter, right? And you can put the transmitter on your belt and then run that up through your shirt, the wire up through your shirt and the little fuzzy cat, whatever they call it, little thing, you know what I'm saying? And then put that on your tie or whatever. But you don't have to. You can just clip the entire transmitter itself. And that's the beauty of what I was talking about, the progression that I seen that the Gun Snob had. That's one of the cool things about that. The newer models, the Saramonic Go, which is a newer model than the Saramonic Blink that I have. They're much smaller, much more lightweight, and all that, so they don't pull on your clothing. Like when you clip it to a collar, you clip it to a tie, you clip it to because they're smaller, right? It's already a little more discreet and everything. And from what I played with those this last weekend at Tulsa, the audio is just as good as the bigger versions. So it makes total sense if your goal is to go as minimalist as possible, but want it as hassle free as possible, and you want really good audio. This definitely sounds to me like that's the way to go. So I would advise Milcert out there probably to look into that option, the options from Saramonic. And they've also got, this is one thing that I did. Now I had a buddy print me one, but with the Saramonic, you can get a basically a studio style microphone or an interview style microphone that you can clip that to because it's a little clip. The transmitter is. You just clip that on the end of a pole, basically, is how it works. And if you watch my video from the Gun Rights Policy Conference. That's the way I did it. I just used the one, and it was like an interview style microphone. My buddy printed me a little 3D thing that looks like a microphone that I just was able to clip the transmitter to. And you could even use that, if you wanted to. The drawback of having that setup is the getting consistent audio, because if you go with an interview style microphone and you're moving it back and forth in front of their face, in front of your face, right? Are you getting it the same distance from each other's face, depending on how loud that person is talking? Are you doing that
You're
every time?
talking like the old fashioned stick where you're like,
Right.
excuse me, sir. And then you talk it to them, excuse me,
Yeah.
sir. Like if you get it 6 inches and 4 inches and 2 inches and 8 inches, it's
It's all
different
different
audio
levels.
every back
Yeah.
and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, and
And
that's
that's
so.
probably, so I was going to say, without getting into a whole microphone thing, we are talking gear though. Audio at shot is fighting noise. Like there's no quiet places, there's quieter places, and it's difficult, if not a burden, to get into those quieter places. I consider audio at SHOT Show, I don't even think it's the golden thing. I don't think anybody's looking for perfect audio at SHOT Show. I think people understand that there's noise, and I think to some extent you would expect there to be noise. If you had somehow perfect audio, wouldn't it seem kind of canned or fake? You know, like a green screen or something of audio. Like
Yeah,
you expect
it'd be
some of that
weird.
ambiance.
Yeah,
And I would
yeah,
say, again, knowing SHOT Show is what it is, expecting perfect audio or what you would have to do to get perfect audio, I think the burden and the annoyance you'd be to the people filming, unless you were getting paid specifically to try to get production level stuff out of SHOT Show, I think you'd be better off making your relationships at SHOT Show and getting yourself a tour or a meeting someplace private where you have
right,
you create the place for perfect audio instead of trying to create perfect audio.
right.
And then that
Well, and
goes for
they
the
have
people in the
rooms. They
booths
have
too, because
rooms
we're,
set up for that. Keep in
well, that's what I
mind,
was going to
right?
say. I
Yeah,
would say for the people in the booths too, if you're spending good money, thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars for that space, and you're considering making a sound isolated area, there's hallways already. When I have an interview with ATF or somebody, I'll take them into the hallways down there because they could care less about being in their booth. They're not trying to sell nothing in their booth, and it's quieter in the hallways. So there's some, just the way that the center is built. There's some hallways for, the support crews and staff and stuff. There's facility hallways and just hallways for fire egress and stuff. And you can go into those places and just calm, get some calm and some rest. And if you're just getting too many people syndrome, there's places to book off where you're still in the show. You're just in a corner or in a hallway down the middle that no one's using, literally. So you can create quiet areas. So if you're considering spending square footage of your place where you could be doing something way more effective, like a selfie station or a, you know, make your own video with our gear type of station, as opposed to let's sit in a private booth and have good audio, I don't think I think it's a waste of time personally. I mean, I've been in some really nice rooms. I've been in Glock's rooms, doing an interview in Glock's rooms, and they're noisy. Let's put it that way. Like if
yeah,
anybody was going to make a quiet room and had the ability to make a quiet room, it would be Glock, right? They're
yeah.
not new. They go to every single show and it's the same booth. If they wanted a quiet room, they'd have made it quiet. And I don't think I think and that's just my opinion, I guess. But if you're looking for perfect audio, create perfect audio. Get what you can get out of SHOT.
Yep.
Let's look at it another way, I guess, since we're getting, well, actually, we'll probably, is there questions? I haven't been looking. Is there enough questions that we should stop and start doing questions till the end?
No, there really. I haven't seen anything out there. So,
Okay, so
Milsurp
maybe even
was
for
pretty
another
cool
show,
with
because
the
we are
videos.
getting towards the end. I was going to say, is there anything that we can look to as examples of what we've strived to be? Because I've done video before. I don't have a problem doing video. I like doing video. I definitely have evolved. But in the beginning, in 2009 and 10, not the beginning, but in our 2009 and 10 era, like we were into videos and I was trying hard to make videos because I was watching people that I was trying to emulate. I was like, wow, they're doing good. Like they're bringing video to the internet. They're bringing video to the questions that people are asking. Like they were innovating and video was just a piece of that innovation or whatever. So maybe a portion of another show. I don't know if it's a whole other show just to talk about the things that we have found that either inspired us or that were good examples of um, using SHOT Show effectively or making good use of SHOT Show. I don't know if you have enough examples like that or if there's anybody that's
You sort of ghosted me there. It's like I didn't follow where
well,
you
no,
were.
I'm kind of saying maybe for another show. Like
Oh,
that's, I don't know if that's enough topic for a whole nother show, but because yeah,
probably
I think it's too much for the 15 minutes we got left or whatever.
right.
So if we haven't got a specific,
Well, let me hit on one thing because
okay,
Milsurp Duo was asking specifically about some audio stuff, and hopefully I don't sneeze in the middle. But if I do, I'll mute up. Um, but Ghost was making a point out there with what he's used for years. Says you don't have to worry about the Bluetooth and all this other stuff. He plugs wired lavs and stuff into um, old phones. It could work the same way with a voice recorder or something like that. And I did go that option before. It just didn't work for me. It was extra phones to have to keep track of, extra phones to have to. For me, it just didn't work. For Ghost, it's worked for a very long time. Um, so that is an option to where you can record. Now, one of the benefits of having the audio on a totally different device is if you have an issue, you know, um, at least you haven't lost one or the other, and that's also a perk of having, potentially multiple phones or multiple cameras doing video is, if one goes down, if, you gets corrupt, if something like that happens, right? So having those multiple audio sources can be beneficial. So I can see even having redundant audio from that sense. Do your wireless or whatever, but then also maybe clip a shotgun mic or a lav mic or something, and potentially use an old phone and get two different ones.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a great, and especially with tech being so cheap, there's nothing wrong with having like an audio file, a video file, and another
but
audio file that you put together in your software, right?
I immediately, because I have run into, and if you do this enough, you're going to have that issue, especially with my current audio setup, because I have to use a little adapter cable. I found that those cables do not last forever. And if you use them regularly, you're going to get a few months or something out of them, and then they're going to screw up because they're little thin wires. Um, and I do buy the good ones. So that's another thing. If you buy any type of cabling or adapters, make sure you buy good ones. Don't just get the cheap Amazon basic, whatever crap off eBay you can get. And I use, all Samsung, have Samsung phones. So I buy the actual Samsung adapters. Um, but, you know, I check immediately, and that's the thing. Go back. A lot of people I know, and I fell into this trap, and occasionally I still do, but not very often. I'll go in, I'll film something, right? And then I won't review it at all. I'll be like, hey, thanks, appreciate it. And I'm on to the next thing. And then I get home and I was like, oh, the audio's crap, or this happened with a video, or this happened, right? I always go back and I'll watch just a few seconds. I usually don't do a lot, but I'll jump back, bring it up and go, "Oh, okay, that was good. Thank you. We're good." Because there are times where I've had to re-record. I'm like, "Oh man, something went wrong." And they understand, whoever you're talking with. Everybody understands tech and they understand glitches and they know things can happen, right? And so it's like, "Can we do it again?" And they're like, if it's only a 3 to 5 minute or whatever little thing, most of them are like, "Yeah, yeah, let's."
Gives them a chance to say the lines again and
Right, right.
have
They
a
get more practice.
what
Maybe
is
they
that called?
maybe they've thought of things. A lot of times they'll think of things in their head that, oh man, I should have mentioned this, or something, and it'll give them the
Well,
opportunity to
and
do
then
it
let's
again.
take that as an opportunity to say, you're at SHOT Show, you spent a ton of money, you're talking to the person who you had to build up the courage to ask if you could talk about their product that they spent tens of thousands of dollars to bring there so that you would ask them, right? Remember that they're there for you, you're there for them. It's a right, but you've worked up the courage, you brought all this stuff there, you're in Vegas. Now's the time you're going to be perfect the first time you run through. So here's some free advice for people who've been living 47 or living in this for 47 minutes, dealing with this puppy's antics for 47 minutes. Film everything twice at least. Take 3 different photos at least. If the person is willing to sit there 3 times, say, hey, can we run through this once and maybe twice so that if you come up with something, we can do it again because we're going to do it twice. So if you come up with something, you want to do it again, we know we're doing a second run. You set it up like that with somebody who you care about and they care about getting their information out. They appreciate that you're spending that effort and that time. They're going to have fun with you the first time, right? Because they know that there's a second time. And a third time is no big deal. If you screw up the second time, you've already established that we're here to get this done. You
Hmm.
come out of SHOT Show with something that's worthwhile. You don't have to
Right.
run up and thank you
No,
and
no.
run away.
Right. Yeah. Uh, Real quick, Mel Sortbill says that he has the video micro, um, Rode Video Micro. That's a phenomenal little shotgun mic. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. That'll serve you well for a very long time. The only issue that I have, and I do have that is the little shotgun mic I use as well. The only issue is positioning with that, depending on how far away you're from that, the subject is from that, depending on the backdrop, what's behind you and the sounds echoing back off of that. You got to be careful with some of that. He does go on to say he's looking at the Rode what is it, the Rode Video Go or whatever, the wireless Go. which is a good set. Don't get me wrong. Um, I would highly suggest you look into the Sarmonic Blink Go. It's going to be cheaper. You're not going to have any adapters that you have to adapt around for your phone because with the um, well, your phone has a headphone jack apparently though from the way he's talking, so you're good. Most of the newer phones do not have headphone jacks, and so that gets problematic. So you have to run an adapter. So what I'm saying is you don't have to worry about adapters and headphone jacks and stuff like that. And you're going to have to worry about that with the I think with the wireless Go as well, but it's going to be way cheaper. I was surprised at the cost. That's one of the reasons I'm switching over to that. I was really surprised at the cost of the Sarmonic Blink Go. And as far as quality, it's just
What
as
do you mean
good.
surprised at the cost? Because it's so much or so little?
Yeah, it's like $80. And
Oh,
I don't know what the wireless Go, but a couple $100 or so for the wireless Go. Let me
okay.
look
So
it
I
up.
wasn't really listening because I'm not paying any hundreds of dollars for microphones. So I usually just tune out
Yeah,
microphone talk. But when you talk about
2
80,
Wireless Go 2 is about $200. Looking here, just real
and then what's
quick
that
looking.
$80 one though that you're talking about?
The
I wasn't listening.
Sarmonic Blink Go.
And that is wireless or it's wired?
It is wireless. Yeah, yeah.
Oh
From the
wow, for 80
transmitter to
bucks.
the receiver is wireless, and it is a double set. In other words, you get two transmitters and one receiver.
You got an Amazon link to that for people to buy it?
Yeah, I can probably pull that up real quick.
Yeah, look one up and send it. So here's how it works. Amazon, if you've got what do they call that? An affiliate account, whatever they call it. They have some name for affiliate accounts with them. You let people know about something interesting at Amazon, and you send them over to it, depending on the type of what it is. Electronic gear, I think it's like 4% of the sale price. They'll give you as a thank you for sending people their way to Amazon. So if you want to support people like Clover who are offering you insight and whatever, by clicking on it, if you're going to buy this item anyway, then clicking on that link and buying it through the link is giving Clover like a 5% thank you, which doesn't cost you any more or less, but gives Clover 5% out of Amazon side.
Yeah.
If you don't do it through somebody's link, Amazon just keeps that 5% that they build into every price so that they could give it to somebody. It's not like there's two different prices, there's a price. And if someone doesn't send you over there, Amazon just keeps it. So if you're interested in diverting some of Amazon's money to Clover, if you're going to buy anything, you use that link. But here's the deal, that link creates a cookie on your machine. So as long as you click on that link and go navigate around Amazon and buy anything, he's getting a cut of whatever it is you buy. So let's say it's time to buy a new washing machine. It's time to buy a new whatever it is that costs a couple of bucks. Go to somebody who you respect or value, look at their Amazon link, go over there and buy it deliberately through their link. You're allowed to do that. It's giving them a cut, a little piece that you would have not gotten any discount or added price anyway. It just diverts some of the money Amazon has in their infrastructure for making things happen to the person who sent you that link. So if you're going to get that microphone, grab it. But if you're getting anything off of Amazon, consider keeping Clover's link there.
Well,
Here's the deal.
that's what I was. Yeah,
Go
that's what
to
I
a
was.
page and click on his website to get.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I've got two links out there. One is for basically the Samsung version, the non-Apple version, and then you've got the Apple version. So depending on what phone you've got. Now I would say you don't have to. Here's the thing: you don't have to buy from that link. Just keep that in mind. So I went over there and just grabbed. There may be, because depending on the different sellers and other things, as long as you go through that link, you can browse and pick whichever one is cheaper
Right.
or
Find the
whichever one you
appropriate
need.
one for
Yeah,
you. But you've
yeah,
entered through Clover's invitation, he'll still get that cut.
yeah.
But if you were to
Exactly,
leave
exactly.
and go do something else later today and come back to Amazon, not the same. So use the
Yeah.
link every time you're about to purchase something.
Yeah, so I don't
Anyway,
know Milsurp. I don't remember Milsurp saying what phone he had
well,
or
he has an
anything like
earphone
that.
jack,
So
so I'm guessing a regular. Apple doesn't let people listen to
yeah,
earphones
Apple
anymore.
hasn't had a headphone jack in a while, so I'm guessing probably a Samsung or something. But those plug directly in. Those are USB C. So it's either USB C or the Apple Lightning port. Now, if you're wanting, let me go ahead and link this other one. Let me link because here's the Saramonic Blink 500. So this one is the one
Yeah, he's
that
got a regular phone.
This one is the one that utilizes the adapter. So yeah, but just because you got a regular phone doesn't mean it's using USB-C.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
USB-C is goofy. That's
yeah,
the
he said I have to
opportunity.
use the connector for the 3.5 from USB-C. So he does have USB-C. Okay. Okay. Then those will work. That's the go. I'm going to put the full size ones in here too. There's a link, Milsurp, so you can look at the full size. I have the full size now. I just got the older version of them. But there's a link for the full size too. But I would, for the price difference, I'm switching. I'm telling you, after this weekend and seeing what the Gun Snob had, I'm switching from the full size because I've been wanting to upgrade anyway because I've got the older versions. So and it just doesn't make any sense for me to upgrade to the new full size. I'm going to upgrade to the smaller, lighter weight, more uh, condensed, I guess,
I'm just
version.
making me full screen because I want to see if the puppy sees himself in the mirror, in the monitor over there. Nah, he's not looking
Doesn't
up.
look like he cares, right?
A minute ago, he was watching TV last night. I was watching some lady. On the Wakanda. What's that new movie called? The new Wakanda movie. I was at the movie theater watching the new Wakanda movie, and this dog was looking up at the screen, going, "Hey." So I wanted to. I need to get some girls talking to him, see if maybe
My
he's.
my mom and dad had a pug for years, and she would 100% watch TV.
Yeah,
Like
I've never seen a dog
100%
watch TV, and
watch TV.
he was doing this thing.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Whenever she would say stuff. So I think he's a lady. He's some old lady's dog.
Yeah.
Some old lady's looking for this animal. Now he's looking at himself. That's very vain of him to look at himself in the video. Anyhow, all right, I'll pick him off the screen. Thank you for indulging my.
And if Millsurp's got questions or anything, hit me up on email or DMs or whatever, bro, and I'll give you some insight or whatever.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about cameras. We talked a little. Well, we didn't really talk about cameras. We talked about
Microphones.
Clover's camera setup. I've used digital cameras from back in 2005 to 2009. Let's just say various digital cameras, and I'm always behind the curve. I like to buy last year's stuff used, so old models used if I can, or new in the box like it was a store model or something, so that I get established consumer reports data on them. Like if a camera is good or bad, I want to know. I don't want to buy cutting edge and then find out about the lemon because I just don't have that much money and interest in cutting edge, right? I'm happy to have last year's tech and used. So I buy last year's stuff. I try to buy it used. And for me, from about 2009, 10, I think I've told the story. In 2009 in Florida, we spent a lot of money to go to Florida. And that was the first year I spent the money myself. No sponsors. I had a sponsor earlier that year. Well, earlier the year before with Front Sight, and I didn't enjoy having sponsors. I didn't like it. So we were making money on YouTube. We were doing it. We were let's go, and we made enough money to get to shot. However, not buying digital cameras. So we went to a store, bought them, used them that weekend, and returned them. And then that's how we were able to get into video. Then we started understanding how to edit, and the YouTube started happening. I'm trying to think. I don't think I ever bought a nice camera. We had people on the crew who bought nice cameras because they had the money to or interest in doing it. But I ended up buying an old camera that was used. And then each year I would buy new cameras, not every year, but whenever I needed to buy a new camera, I would buy that same make and model because then I would always get another battery for the set. I would have replacement parts because I would start to break cameras all the time by putting them too close to targets and you'd get splatter. I'd put them on gear and they get smashed or something. We would take our kind of crusty cameras and stick them on guns before there were any kind of gun cams, and we'd duct tape them because there was no rail mounts or anything back then. You couldn't 3D print stuff like you can now. So they would get destroyed, but I didn't care because then I would just keep buying them off of eBay, and I could keep buying this. I forget what it was, some model of camera, but it started off costing me like, let's say 120, and when the other cameras were 300. And then it got down to where I was buying these cameras for $50, and it was totally worth buying them. And they did everything I needed, 720p, right? Everything I needed for a long time on YouTube. And then whenever it got to be where I had to upgrade cameras, I think I upgraded once again to like an old used one. So last year's model and used. It worked and everything. It's not like I had a problem with it physically, but editing the large video and stuff just wasn't for me. And YouTube was going in a direction, and that's when I started parting ways with going down the gear review side. I still enjoyed going to shot and getting videos, But if I could get a quick video, that was fine. So for me, as soon as remember the Droid, the Motorola Droid, that was my first smart cam or whatever they call smartphone, I guess.
Right.
And then, I mean, I was already using cameras and phones since the beginning. I've liked digital photography for always, and the ability to be able to zip it along with a phone and everything. I don't care how crude it is. That's always been cool. But I remember as soon as the Droid came out, I pretty much stopped. I was already going towards cameras, and I'd say, did I ever use a camera in the time you've known me? I can't remember when I stopped using cameras.
I don't
Stopped
think
even
so.
carrying them.
I don't ever remember using a
I,
camera.
I traded a SIG one time. I owned a little 380 SIG, or no, it was a 9, so I didn't even want it. It was a little 9mm SIG no, it was a 380. But anyway, I traded this little SIG I had. It was kind of okay, but I was never going to carry it for a GoPro, whatever it is. And the GoPros, what I liked about the GoPro, it's a little tiny camera with a lens on it, no screen or nothing. You watch the GoPro through your phone. So you can have the camera doing whatever on a stick, on a suction cup, 3D print something to stick it to the front of the vehicle, and you're monitoring it and controlling it through your phone. And I thought that was super cool. If I could get some kind of video camera like that, that'd be neat. But I don't think that's not a form factor they're worried about pursuing,
Right.
really, right?
Right.
So anyway, so I have a GoPro. I've used it a little bit recently because I really like the fisheye, and I was using it with the drone and stuff. And then I had the drones. I had a drone for a minute from Obnoxious, sold me a drone, and then I bought it. He sent it to a dude in Chicago. I picked it up at Gun Rights Policy in Chicago in 2018, and I owned it for the ride back to Tucson, and basically had to sell it because I was out of money and I couldn't own it. I never had it. I charged the batteries. I never even took it out of the container. Sold it to a friend of mine who was willing to buy it for what I paid for it, and then he was a drone person. He's like into it or whatever, so he was able to use it. Anyway, I owned that one for briefly, never even used it, and then got that other drone from Pink. He sent me a drone that was his. Anyway, he sent me a drone, and that thing, I would say, is I don't want to say a necessity, but I would say on your top 3. Like, I would not get into you doing YouTube at this point without a drone as one of your top 3 cameras. Phone, some kind of video camera, GoPro will work. Drone. You've had a drone, the little toy one, and I enjoyed that little toy one too. I got the little smaller one, I think, than you, right? Or did you get the bigger? Did I get the bigger one? I think you got the bigger one, right?
I did. I think I got the big one. Yeah.
So you had a little bit better drone than me as a toy, and I enjoyed my toy, and I broke it before I ever got to really use it. That's when I got the DJI one from him, and like I say, I really thought I was going to be able to use it. I just wasn't able to afford to have it. But what's your opinion? You didn't get as much chance to play with them, but after playing with Pinks, and that thing is for real, like it can take video.
Yeah.
It's just so much power. I really, really like what it can do.
So yeah, so right off the bat, the one that I got, and again, it was bought actually at the Tulsa show, and it was just cheap toy style more than anything. I think, even though it was a couple $100 or something. Um, First thing I had to do, the camera was garbage, and so the first thing I did was fashion a mount to actually put a GoPro on the bottom of it. And that greatly increased the camera quality. Of course, I wasn't able to move the camera. The camera was then stationary, and it was stationary on it anyway, even the stock camera. Um, but I had never flown a drone before, right? So you've got a cheap drone that doesn't have all of the automation and the stabilization and the safety protocols and all of the stuff of a more high quality drone, right? It does make a big difference, Um, the big difference between
a
drones
massive
and
difference. Yeah, it's
the
toy
cheaper.
and real.
So if you remember the radio controlled helicopters and stuff, right? That we played with growing up and that kind of thing. A drone is a glorified version of that, the cheap ones, right? The new ones are the more expensive ones, however, are a totally different animal. And if you've ever gotten a chance, and I have, to play around with the newer ones, you realize it. So
Okay, so you have good
yeah, I have. Yeah, I've got a nephew
because
that had the
they
like the
fly so much
DJI,
differently.
like the DJI 2 or something.
Oh yeah, you're
It's
fine.
been years ago, a long time ago. But even that one, right? Um, My nephew got one of those for like
Well, the
Christmas or
difference is the
something.
toys
Same.
fly, but you got to fly it. Like you got to tell it to go up, down, left, right all the time. Like you're the one that keeps it from going up or down and left, right by telling
Right.
it to go down or left or right or whatever. With
Right.
the fancy ones, and right now the threshold is $250. So that's the
Right.
threshold. At about $250, you tell it to go up, and then when you tell it to quit going up, it stops going up and it just stays right there.
It
And then
stays
if
where
you
it's at.
tell it
Yeah.
to go right, it goes right until you tell it to stop, and then it stays right there.
Right.
So it's that aspect or that element is what is the GPS, I guess. That's what's the brain of the thing is able to
Well,
say,
it's almost like a
I live
throttle
here.
control, right?
Well,
It's
it's more like just owning a magic cursor. It's like the thing becomes a cursor in 3 dimensions, and you put it where you want, and then you start moving your camera around. So
right.
it becomes like you don't even have to think about it as a flying a thing. If it's windy or if like something's about to happen, like a thing is about to fall on it, of course. But for the most part, it takes the flying away, and now it's like a gimbal. It's like you have a 3 dimensional cursor, and then you play with your gimbal to take
Yeah.
your video, and you can take stills. And the thing is,
Yeah, you fly it to
because
get it where you want it, and then that's it.
yeah, and that's what we're kind of talking about. It's not so much the toy of having a helicopter is the reason to get it, but once you got a decent one, and I'm going to say $250 for these exos or like a used DJI, something with GPS in it is the main thing, and a decent camera. And we can go into it, but a decent camera is at the 200 level.
Mhm.
What you end up with is a gimbal, just like one of those things that Clover talked about for his camera when he had the setup so that you could move with it and it wouldn't it would be smooth. You've got that gimbal up in the air, and then you can decide how you're going to move your gimbal, and that's the part where, as a person who's using a camera, a photographer, I guess, you're going to appreciate the power that drone gives you, because once you start think of it as just another camera of yours that you get to put up in the air or in space. And I don't know if you've seen some of the drive-throughs, like the cameras I'm talking about are like the right between toy and real, because they have a decent camera and they can be put where you want them to. They just don't have all the features of the fanciest ones or the range or whatever, or the quality of camera. But you get into those, I guess they're called FPVs, the ones that are smaller and more designed to put a pair of goggles on, and you drive the drone around and through things where it's not line of sight. You're not watching the drone and looking through a screen. You've got the headset on, and you're the ones that do stunts and stuff. But instead of doing stunts, they'll just like drive through a bowling alley or drive through a shooting range and give you that kind of magic flight through the like tour of the place. And those can be really neat. It's sort of like the film in movies where they do the one take fight scenes or something, or the one take scenes where a bunch of people are involved and everything happens sequentially. You can really do some neat stuff with some drones. And if you're a shot show, useless. We're not going to be able to fly drones at shot probably. But at a range or at an indoor range or even a large gun shop, not just being able to take a drone of the outside of the place, which would be super neat, or their signage or their acreage or their ranges or something, but being able to fly around inside of an indoor range or inside of a larger shop to give kind of that like magic walkthrough type of thing, that would be a neat service to be able to provide. So I guess it's not so much shot show as much as equipment side, but anyway, I guess that was my plug for drones.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't allow drones on range day at shot, and I'm pretty sure they don't allow them in the building.
Oh yeah, I'm almost 100% positive you get kicked out. I'm just saying it would be awesome. It would be cool if NSSF had some professional drone player person to fly around there with whatever they need to do. But how awesome would that be to just have a drone fly around? Because there's plenty of room for it. Somebody knows what they're doing. Could totally.
Yeah, as high as the ceilings are, right?
Same as Wanamaker. Wanamaker would be
And
awesome
as
too.
long as you had somebody that knew what they were doing, because you do have columns and stuff everywhere. You do have things, right? And so it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like it's just
I mean,
open
you'd want a
space above you.
professional to do it, but somebody who
But
knows what they were doing would have a
oh
blast.
yeah, to be able to angle the camera down and just basically fly just fly in circles and close in or something as you went around, or make a certain flight pattern through there it'd be awesome for sure. It would really give a lot more perspective for those that have never been anyway, to the size and scope of the show, because it's hard to get that from the ground, or even if you go up in the second story buildings that are booths that some of the companies have and take pictures. It's really hard to even figure it out then how big the show is, but it's massive.
Wanamaker would be cool too. Plenty of room. We almost did it. I mean, I guess we kind of did do it. It's just that we didn't get good footage of it. But I do technically have some footage from that guy that we bought our drones from at Wanamaker. He went up and flew above everybody. He didn't even ask or nothing. He just did it.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess I was saying cameras, microphones. We talked a little bit. Battery backups can be a thing. I think cords are more important. I don't know. There's some things you can worry about with cords. It's possible to put some spyware into a cord and leave that laying around. Don't pick up any thumb drives at SHOT Show or anywhere. Never pick up thumb drives that you just find laying around, or never put them into a computer, smash them or something. But as far as cords and stuff laying around, I'd be concerned. Don't be aware that you can put spyware in a cord. Trying to think of where else there's been bottlenecks or where people have needed to run to a store. I think it's worth bringing two of like a redundancy of all of your cord charging and transfer cords. That's the kind of stuff that's annoying to have to go source, and it's inexpensive, right? It's easy to go source, but it's annoying. And then a lot of people go, oh, it's easy enough to get one of these at Walgreens, but then you find out it's like the third Walgreens you get to that has it, right? Or the electronic store isn't open or something. What about, we've mentioned it before, but the bags and stuff. My bag is about 80% lugging stuff around and then 20% carrying my support gear. Is that another topic, or can we hit that one in this one?
I don't know. If we want to go another 20 minutes, I guess we can. Yeah, I guess we can hit it.
I mean, I don't know if I need that long. Like say, so if mine is 80% open space so that I can grab stuff, patches or stuff, loot, whatever, free stuff, merch. 20% is gear. Where is your percentages?
Oh, as far as the bag, we're talking about the bag I'm carrying around
at SHOT,
right?
Yeah, or a show, SHOT Show.
Oh man, it's. What'd you say yours was? 80-20, 80
I think
empty, 20
for sure. I mean, I barely have a couple of pockets. I don't carry on that much stuff, so I don't need that much.
Yeah, I know.
Most of my stuff is carrying around patches to trade with people. Like that's, but I kind of figure as I trade patches, I'll replace the room with other patches.
Mine's going to be close to that if it's not more like 90-10. I mean, it's.
Oh, okay. I figured you carry more stuff.
No, I mean, you got to realize. I mean, my microphone setup doesn't take up much space, right? The phone, my phone is in my pocket. My extra phone is in a pocket on the. So, as far as gear, I don't have much. I mean, there'll be a bottle of water in there. There might be some type of snacks, right? A box of a little box of Cheerios or something in there. My smokes, obviously, that's in a little Ziploc bag with the pipes and a few things. And that's about it as far as, and obviously some patches and things, right? But that's predominantly it in the backpack. I strip it down as bare bones as I possibly can because, again, we talked about it in a previous episode, but I check bags in the coat check thing to kind of store stuff. So I'll go back there if I need something that's not in my bag. It's just a trip to the media room or wherever, right? Get into that bag, get out what I need. And usually I'm going back there anyway to dump swag, right? Because I'll pick up patches, I'll pick up things like you're talking about, and I'm not going to tote them around all day. So, next time I'm by there, or if I go to swap that out, then I might grab. Oh, I think I need a battery backup, or I may need this, and I'll go ahead and grab that and put that in the bag. So, for the most part, it stays far more empty than it does full. I'll put it to you that way.
Milsurp asked another quick question. Clover, not really on the topic. What time each morning does the media room open for breakfast?
7:30, I think, if I remember correctly. Anyway,
and it's super hit or miss.
Yeah,
Tuesday nights, 9 o'clock. It used to be way different. It's gotten different, and now it's inconsistent. I'd say it was kind of good for a minute. It's been in Sands for since 10, so 12 years, 13 years now, and in the media room moved last year, but into a different floor, but identical size room. So the media room's been the same the entire time. you know how it is, right? For a minute, I don't know if you were there when it was a real breakfast, like in the mornings, eggs and grits and food and
No, I've
bacon and
never been
everything.
where it was that. No.
Okay. But it, you know, can imagine how big that would be. Like there wasn't those couches, like those round couches and chairs.
Mhm.
Whenever those came is when they quit doing the long buffet of breakfast. So there used to be none of them couches and stuff, or if they were somewhere else. And then
So
that corner where this year it was like rooms for people to do quiet. I guess those are quiet rooms, but you know, the media room, quiet rooms. And then one year it was registration. Like that front corner changes all the time. And one back in the day, those were the couches, I think.
mm,
So anyway, there used to be a much bigger buffet. Now it's what you get all excited because you get boxes of cereal. So some people like boxes of cereal and milk. I mean, I don't consider that like an energy breakfast. Like that's a breakfast, I guess, but it isn't like real energy. That's sugar energy. But like meat and stuff and eggs and carbohydrate type of energy is going to be there. NSSF has a club, and I don't know if they do breakfast every day, but they do dinner sometimes. So being a member of NSSF, right, can get you into things. But you might have to still pay, but it'll be like there. You won't have to go anywhere, and it'll be inexpensive, and it'll be a fancy Vegas hotel buffet type of meal. But it'll often be, what do they call that? Like, is it cafeteria when you go up and there's like three different kind of eggs and you decide what you want, and there's like
right.
five different kind of potatoes and you decide what you want. Um, I got a buffet, I guess. Anyway, there's sometimes those I haven't really paid attention because I've always had different situations. But for a while there, when it was just me and Joe, we would, and we're cheap, we'd go there and get fed by whatever state because that was the best. Back in the old days, the states would give us, like Wyoming would feed us, or like Idaho would feed us, and we would eat and be told by how great their state is and what's so good about their state. And we could ask questions and whatever. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Then it was like, here's a bunch of donuts and fancy stuff for the media whenever there wasn't a breakfast, because it wasn't like a breakfast every day. And we would get a big whiteboard at SHOT Show, and it would tell us in the media room. Do we get something in the media room? I don't. We get kind of a published, like a poster. So it's not like a whiteboard where they can actually be on, know what's up. It's like some, like a printed thing. So it was what they thought would be up 6 months ago. And maybe it's right, but oftentimes those things get scheduled or rescheduled and they're not even right. So I don't remember them being like very like, hey, there's something to do in this meeting room, or there's something to do in that meeting room. They don't really seem to be like that in the press room anymore. But anyway, so they've reduced it, and then the reason I'm saying all this is because it's not like it just got reduced. Was it 2 years ago that they didn't even have food, period? Or, I mean, it was while you've been going, right? Like there was a year that there was just no food. And it was like, what's up with that? They didn't even give us drinks, I think, one year.
So back in January there was nothing. It was the only year I remember.
This year?
This year was the only
Oh,
year I
okay.
remember that there wasn't at least something out there all the time, right? At least drinks, or at least drinks and cookies or whatever. There wasn't the big spread of all the pastries and the cereal and all of that. That wasn't out there all the time. But in the corner, there was at least like the tea, the coffee, the little buckets they've got with the drinks in them, and maybe a few cookies on a tray or that sort of thing. Um, because if you remember, that's how Yankee got, or part of the reason Yankee got sick that year is he sat in there and ate cookies
Drinking
and
like
drank orange juice
gallons
all
of
day.
orange juice. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can even
yeah,
imagine
all
doing that.
day. But they did away with that, and I'm guessing because of the cough, or I don't know what the deal was, but you had to ask
It
for
was a
water, and
weird year. Was it this
it
year
was
they had to
strange.
ask for water?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I
it
thought it
was
was
this year.
last year too, because I could have
No,
sworn it was more than this year you
I
had to ask
didn't. I
for
don't
water.
remember. I don't remember it last year. So there's a
Okay, so
couple
maybe
of
I'm just remembering different days because I remember we had to learn. Somebody told me, you told me, or somebody told me you
yeah.
had to ask for water, and then I was like, oh, I know the magic up
So
level for this one. You have to ask for water now.
a couple of things I would add to this is first, to answer the question. Yes, according to I just looked it up to make sure. 7:30 to 6 is media room hours. 7:30 to 3 on Friday. They close it early on Friday, and you definitely want to remember that. Um, Now, there are breakfasts, and whether you're talking about NSSF membership, there is an NSSF members lounge. Um, and as far as I'm aware, the breakfast and lunch there, it costs money. Now, I've
Yeah,
never
but it's
done
not
that.
much. It's like $20 or it's
No,
less.
yeah, it's not much, but It does cost. So, but there are breakfasts and lunches you can attend that do not cost. So you have to know where those are at. Who's
Are you
doing them.
talking on site or are you talking elsewhere?
Yeah, I'm talking about there at shot
Oh,
in a
okay.
room. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The shooting USA Shooting or whatever does a breakfast every year. The Palma does a lunch every year. So it's a matter of just doing some homework, right?
Mhm.
And kind of
Being
figuring
in from
out.
organizations, paying attention what the organizations are doing. Yeah.
Right, right, and you don't have to be members. I mean, I'm not. Ghost and I have been a couple times to the Shooting USA, Team USA, whatever, Olympics, that sort of stuff. Went to that, and it was an awesome. I mean, they had the buffet spread like you were talking about, and it was actually an awesome presentation. I mean, you got to meet
Yeah,
Olympic
you
gold
learn stuff that
medalists,
you got to eat anyway, so you might as well.
and
Here's cool
I
stuff
mean,
while
I
you're
was
eating, right?
eating. I mean, anybody that knows the competition world knows on shoots, right? And I was sitting next to, and I didn't even know it until we got ready to leave. And I looked down at his badge and I'm like, "Oh, on shoots." And I'm like, "You are?" And he's like, "Yeah." Like, "Yeah, I'm the guy. I'm on shoots." I'm like, "Wow." And we sat there and chatted and had breakfast with Mr. On
Are you a
Shoot,
better shooter
basically.
now? Did he give any
Oh
hints
yeah,
on
just
what
by
to
shaking
do?
his hand. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But no, you meet gold medal winners, you meet all kinds of people there. It was awesome, and so yeah, you don't have to be a member necessarily of those organizations. They do that, to court you as a member.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
even for like POMA, right? Like with his Professional Outdoor Media Association, and now I am a member, but they'll let people come just to hear about POMA, right? And prospective members and that sort of thing.
Well, that
So
was the point with the states too, and
yeah,
it sounds
yeah.
like so. So yeah, so the question, to answer the question, just don't consider it breakfast. Whatever they're going to give you in the media room is some sort of like afterthought or something. It's
Hmm.
not like we're their number one issue or something. It's just if they felt like it, or maybe it was on the menu and they decided to check it. But it's not like they put a lot of thought into it or effort into it. It's definitely whatever the hotel provides, and they told them go ahead
Right,
and do it and don't cancel it. Okay, so effectively, but they didn't like put any
right.
effort into it.
Yeah.
Now, here, let's say that you're somebody out there and you want to impress every single content creator that happens at SHOT Show, the media room. I mean, it's probably not cheap. I'm sure they're not giving it away, but I mean, Toyota had it for a couple of years, and they just did. They should have done something with it. Like said, oh, we're going to give you it and 10 cars, and then you give us 10 people with good presentations, and they're going to get vehicles. That would have been fun, right? That would have been a whole different kind of media room. We would have cared a lot more about Toyota or Nissan, whoever it was. But and I'm taking them for granted for sure, right? Because I didn't I didn't appreciate what they were offering. I don't know how much they were paying for it, but if you're out there and you really want to impress everybody who's got cameras and microphones and pencils at SHOT Show, media room, perfect opportunity.
Hmm.
You're wasting your time if you're not. You can just make everybody happy, and it's so easy. Get with me and Clover, and we can tell you how to make. I can tell you how to make happy.
Wouldn't
Clover.
it be neat if they could have gotten a car or a truck in there? You got to figure there has to be some way they could
Are
do
you
that.
kidding me? Like, right? Like, come on. Or how about a cutout? How about something more than
Yeah,
just
even the life-size cardboard cutout of the vehicles. Yeah, yeah.
but the thing is we don't appreciate it, and I can understand that they're to some I don't know, whatever, that's between them and them anyway. But I guess
That
I
would
was
be
just saying
cool
that
just
don't
for riding
consider the
shotgun
SHOT
with
Show.
Charlie. Could you imagine like Toyota's got, a vehicle there in the media room and Charlie hooks his stuff up and he can just do his interviews right there without really having to drive around? That could be kind of neat.
It would be. um I guess I was just to answer his question, just that you're not going to. I wouldn't depend on it being breakfast. You might get something like a snack there. You might get something you like, but it's typically bad food. It's sugar and bad carbs. It's not like any kind of oats and good carbs that you're going to need for the day. If you're not a healthy person, or you're not like I'm not like Mr. In shape or healthy, but I understand that we're mammals and that we work with oats and rice and chicken better than we work with like sugar and caramel, right? Or whatever. Like we are in caffeine, I guess, right? We run better as machines when we're fueling ourselves. And so SHOT Show, if you really want to get a good SHOT Show, eat bad after SHOT Show. I would eat well up to SHOT Show and eat good at SHOT Show. It'll just, I mean, I've done it for 18 years and I've done it both ways. And you're better off not fighting your metabolism or whatever it's called, like you're
Yeah.
being a mammal. So as much as
I
it's
don't
nice
know.
to get free caramel rolls and syrupy drinks in the morning, you can keep them. Like once I used to down Pepsis or whatever they give us. They have to give us Pepsis, they don't give us, or do they give us Coke? They give us Coke, but they don't give us like Mountain Dew or anything good. What they
Yeah,
used to. Like, no, anyway,
yeah, there's
I used to
sodas
drink the sodas, but I don't even drink the juices and stuff anymore.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm a
no, I don't
big
want to
fan
go
of
to
the
the,
cereal, obviously. So, and
but
there
that's
are
your thing.
options.
It's
There
not
are
like cereal's the
options.
perfect
Well,
shot
and
show food.
there's non-sugary options with the cereal, definitely.
Yeah, but it's
And
still
what I was
cereal.
going to say is it's an opportunity for me is I'll bogart a couple boxes of the cereal. That way, they're not going to put the cereal out obviously for lunch or in the evening or anything like that. And I always bogart a couple of extra boxes like Cheerios. You can eat those like snack, like trail
No,
mix
yeah.
or something. And I'll bogart a couple of those just because I've got a snack during the day and I don't have to worry about buying a snack and making sure I put that in my bag or anything else. And you can even do that with like the drinks, like the sodas or something. You could swipe one of those and put it in your bag or something like that. So I would say, take advantage. One of the things with the media room to me in the morning is not the breakfast. It's everybody kind of meets and congregates there because if you're hustling, if you're head down and hustle and you're working the show and you're doing your thing, um that's one of the few times is getting there, right as the media room opens or, an hour or so before the floor opens. And, it's not really about the food. It's more about that's when you really get every morning, you really get to see people and, talk about things. And maybe you hear about a new company, maybe you hear about a new product. You kind of get an idea how other people are covering the show and that maybe that affects how your strategy is going to be. It's just the camaraderie with colleagues in the morning. To me, is more the draw. Don't get me wrong. I love my cereal. I'll eat 10 boxes of that crap in the morning, but it's the camaraderie among colleagues is really a cool part of the media room in the morning.
And Millsarp saying, sounds like I'll still cook breakfast each morning, eggs and bacon, stuff like that. So I don't want to say like don't take the opportunity to one. There's restaurants in Vegas, right? Like you're in Vegas. I'm just saying, I guess, and I don't want to, not appreciate the food that's at shot because, like I say, it is nice to have a cinnamon roll and whatever. Just I wouldn't consider that my breakfast. Like if you go eat breakfast somewhere, so I'm going to go off two different tangents. One, it's Vegas. So when we've had multiple people in multiple places and we all want to go to shot together or whatever, let's go meet for breakfast here, blah blah blah, then go to show, right? And or let's go meet for breakfast and then go to the main range day. Like so there's that opportunity. You can go meet for breakfast at a regular restaurant, pay regular prices what you expect, or go to I can tell you if you're a Second Amendment advocate, I'll tell you about my places, the places I like to go for breakfast that are around the school essentially, like just local places like your normal place that's only open for breakfast and maybe lunch. But there's those kind of local places that are awesome, like super cheap, real food. It's great. It's on the way to the show if you're far away, and you've got that potential. So I don't want to say like you have to force yourself to just eat at the bed and breakfast or whatever. Whatever you can go buy at a store, because that might be more of a pain if you're not in a rental car to get to a store to buy eggs and everything you might need, and then you're washing dishes and all that. So we are in Vegas, and you definitely can hit all the normal food that you'd have in the rest of the country, plus all the Vegas local stuff. And there's time. You can get up early. Most of the people are from the East Coast, so your 5 a.m. is 3 a.m. in Vegas, right? Your 7 a.m. is 5 a.m. in Vegas. So it's not real tough for people from the East Coast to wake up at 7, go to eat breakfast until 9, and then get to the show by 9:30. And now with the two entrances, it's much more possible to get to the show after eating breakfast in the morning. And like what Clover's talking about, the cereal and the cinnamon rolls, if you went and ate breakfast and you ate real food, you got your energy. Now you're at Shot Show and you're going to eat a cinnamon roll. Yeah, it's topping it off. That's giving you some power. That's giving you some sugar to burn. I guess my hesitation was don't consider that like a good, well balanced breakfast. It's not going to fuel you for the day. It'll
Right.
make you be like, hey, yeah, we're going to sit around here chatting like what Clover said. Yeah, eat a donut while you're doing it. Drink a fancy cup of coffee. Just make sure
Right.
you're putting that on top of a good balanced breakfast, right?
Yeah.
Because you'll definitely burn it off. I mean, you don't have to worry about getting. You're going to only lose weight at shot. You can't. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's possible to gain weight at shot show. That's not
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either. No matter what you eat, 'cause, and I don't. I agree with what you're saying. However, it's really hard for me to adhere to what you're talking about because I'm so amped up and everything and hyped up.
You mean going to
Shot
a
week,
breakfast first?
yeah, yeah. That I the only like meal you could speak of. It usually happens in the evening. We do break off at least one day. We'll break off and we'll go down to the food court there or whatever on the other side of the casino. But other than that, as far as eating anything substantial or significant during the day, it really just doesn't happen with me. And I don't have an energy issue really because I'm so I'm so focused and so hyped up on things. You know what I mean?
Mhm. No,
And
that's a
and
good
I mean,
point. And you
and
need
I'm not
sugar for that.
saying and that's me, right? I'm not
No,
saying
that's
anybody
everybody.
else is
That's
able to do
everybody.
that, but
Nobody can. I don't believe anybody can go to. I don't care. Nobody is going to Shot Show. Nobody. I don't care anybody. You could be the person who owns Shot Show, who's been to every single one. Your dude from MTM said that he's been to every single Shot Show.
right.
You still are doing something that costs you a bunch of time and effort, and you're going to hang out with all your friends. Stuff. There's nobody that isn't amped up for Shot Show. So,
Yeah.
like you're saying, I don't want to make it sound like I eat a well balanced lunch at Shot Show. I don't think I've ever eaten at Shot Show more than
Yeah.
an energy bar or like a French fry off of somebody's plate who's lame and wants to. I know people. I mean, I know people who will to this day go to Shot Show and eat lunch there. Like
Yeah.
they waste their time eating lunch. I'm like, of all the time in the world that you can skip a lunch, you spent so much time and effort to be at this show, and you're going to sit around for an hour. I guess if you need it, if you're not in shape enough to keep walking, but like you say, my mind is out voting any muscles. Right? I come home and realize how tired I was, but I don't
Yeah.
think about it when I'm at Shot,
Yep.
and that's
Yeah,
going to
you're
be
just in
everybody. I
that
think.
you're just in that different mindset, right? And so your body's not thinking about eating, you're not. And that's another dangerous thing you need to be careful about is, if you're so engrossed in the show and your mind is not thinking about eating, and especially drinking, right? Fluids. And so,
That's more dangerous for sure.
yeah,
You definitely want to
yeah,
have water with you. You want to learn where the water stations are, where you can grab water bottles if you're not worried about it, and then or where if you're okay with water bottles. Again, if you're somebody who's got a booth, and what does a case of water cost? Zero compared to what you're going to get in return when you can give somebody a water bottle who doesn't know where to find water. You'll find people with butterscotches and mints and stuff out on their table. At first, I didn't figure that out, and then one year I had like a dry mouth or whatever they call it. You get just whatever. I was like, dang it, and
oh
then
yeah,
sucking on one of them candies made it possible for me to continue. Like it was just I wasn't gonna
yep,
be able to talk or whatever. So I can understand why they put stuff like that. It really helps people, and it's a conversation starter maybe I guess. But having a bottle or two of water out there, have the rest of the case under, and you're going to give most of those away to people who don't care, who are going to not appreciate it. But a couple of people are going to remember forever that you gave them that bottle of water when they needed it.
well,
Right?
and we talked about the relationships with companies, and maybe that's a whole other show, and we've yet to get to it, but we have hit on it in the past. And so realizing that their employees and stuff are stuck in that booth all day, every day for Shot Show, and so they've got drinks, they've got snacks, they've got stuff in their, at their disposal. You know what I'm saying? In their little rooms and their little
Hopefully they
closets
do.
and things. And I can't tell you the number of booths I went into, and it'd be middle of the day, later in the day, and they go, "Hey, you want something to eat, or you need something to drink, or whatever? We got some stuff in there." And good Lord, you go in there and it's a smorgasbord, right? They got all kinds of cookies and candies and bags of chips and drinks and other things. So having relationships with companies that allow you to grab a snack, from their thing. And they bought it all. They want it all to be eat. They don't want to take any of that home. They don't care. It's just a
Oh
matter
yeah,
of having
exactly.
a relationship and being comfortable enough to even ask, even if they don't offer. Say, hey, you got a water, you got something to drink, you got anything to eat back there, and most of the time they do. Almost all of them are going to have stuff that they brought, and they probably brought more than they're going to need, to be quite honest, because they understand there's going to be other people that come by that might need stuff. So I think that's just a thing.
Well, I'm going to blame this Nancy Pelosi again, but I feel like we've definitely gone 90 minutes plus. And I mean, we talked about cameras and batteries and a little bit about about microphones. I guess one type of microphone. There's other types of microphones. But I still feel like I didn't write anything down, or if I did, I put it in the description, and I'm not remembering. Let me go look actually, because now that I'm saying that, I think I did. Okay, yeah, I did write some stuff down. So on the danger of going over, let me read through the list here: cameras, phones, batteries, file storage, internet, sound, lighting, communications, internet and phone apps. I guess that could be its own show, right? Carrying gear, we kind of talked about that a bit. Charging gear, testing gear, and gear reviews. So I think just going backwards, you've got an opportunity to do a gear review at home when you're bored on your boring thing, doing it on your couch or something, or you can do a gear review in your hotel room at SHOT Show. So you got 7 wallets you want to review. You might not be reviewing them on the show floor, but you can bring them with in your luggage and review them in a hotel room. Review them on the balcony looking out over Vegas, right? Like you're there, review your backpack, review your gear, review your belt, review your pants, review your boots, review all that stuff in, what's the word, like in country, right? Like when you're there. Testing gear, you're going to go there for 4 days, 5 days if you're at range day. I'm not going to say for everybody buy 5 new things and try them out there, but if you've got one setup for microphones and another setup for microphones, there's nothing perfect at SHOT. Run 2 for one day, and or one, alternate days, do one set for 2 days and the other set for the other 2 days. But play it up, right? Change it up. Test your gear is you need a chance to test gear in order to have valid ability to review it. Anybody can buy something and offer observation. That's dime a dozen. People who've gone to done things and used gear during it, that review holds more value. When you're reviewing gear that you've used at 6 different SHOT Shows, or 5 different, or 2 different, or at SHOT Show, that's different than I bought this gear and I took it to the garage and I reviewed it, right? Like that's different. Take advantage of that. Use that as a resource that you've got. Um, I'm going to read it again for Clover and then let him hit on any of these. Cameras, phones, batteries, file storage, internet, sound, lighting, communications, internet and phone apps, carrying, charging, testing, and then reviews.
Yeah, on the file storage, I can't tell you the number of times that um, I've been at events where people have had, and I'm not necessarily, speaking when you hear storage, a lot of times you think battery backup and things like that. But I can't tell you the number of times that people have had SD cards and things that have become corrupt. So having extras of those. Um, and that speaks to, and I get if you fly, it may be a little more difficult, because you're a little more limited as what you can carry. But as far as somebody in your group, at least having access to a laptop and um, a backup drive, and I'll tell you why. This happened with um, what was it? Ghost, I think. I had my laptop and my backup drive. In fact, I think I've still got his footage somewhere on a backup drive. But we was at a show or we was at somewhere and something happened and I can't remember where he swapped SD cards or he did something. Um, and in order to do that, he needed more space on his card. I can't remember what the deal was. And I had my laptop and my backup drive in the hotel room. I wasn't carrying it around the show. But that night, I took his SD card and I sucked everything off of it, right? Put it on the backup drive. That way he could put it back in his phone and he had free space and all that. So, if you're going with people, as long as somebody you have access, and this is the whole support structure thing that we've talked about through every one of these episodes, but having somebody that has a laptop and maybe a backup drive that can at least do that for you, if you're totally solo and by yourself, then you know maybe having all of the laptop and the backup drive in your room so you can do that. So if you've got, at least you've got each day. So if you go through and on Thursday your card becomes corrupt for whatever reason, at least you've already backed up and you've got range day Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? And at least you've still got all of that footage and everything else. So there's something to be said about extra things, and then considering the bringing the laptop, bringing the. I'm not a proponent of spending all your time outside of the show editing videos on your laptop and uploading and all that stuff, but to be able to facilitate those daily backups just in case something goes down, I think can be important.
For sure. And then the other side of that, or the other piece of that, that a lot of times people don't consider when you're packing this stuff, is the time. So schedule the time to do that. Scheduling your time at shot, booking to eat, and then booking to an event, getting home just in time so you can get 6 hours before you wake up again and do it all again doesn't give you time to download and sort and take notes, which, you know, 5 days worth of frantically downloading stuff off of SD cards into some kind of folder structure that you create on the fly versus thinking about it ahead of time, scheduling some time each day, no matter what. I'm going to get there an hour early so that I've got that hour to relax, to take some notes. You're going to have time, no matter how fast your drives are, you're going to have time while your media is moving back and forth. If you've been taking video or a lot of pictures, it's going to take some time. Consider with that schedule to put in to schedule some time to take notes, to give yourself while you're still in that stuff is still going through your brain of everything that happened that day. Take copious notes. If it's turn on a video camera and video record it, post it on YouTube, and let the transcriber turn that into notes for you. If that's easier, give yourself notes. This is what I did at 9 o'clock. This is what I did at 10 o'clock. This is what I did at 11 o'clock. This is what I did at 12 o'clock. It seems ridiculous until 3 days into SHOT Show and you can't remember at all what you did on Monday. 6 weeks after SHOT Show and you can't barely remember little flashbacks from SHOT Show. Yeah. So you're going to be taking that stuff from your drive so that you don't lose it, but you also don't want to lose your ability to recollect it. So help yourself make your stuff more effective. I can't tell you how many people, this is again a tip for people who are listening this far into here. Tons of people go there and collect a lot of data and it's useless for them. It's useless. And it's either because they lost it, but although they can also just lose it into the mess, lose it into the confusion. Go there without a plan, execute things in the order that they come up, and you come out with the hodgepodge of what you expect with that kind of thing. Going in there and I'm going to get this and I'm going to follow through, and no matter what, I'm following through on this. Everything else extra that happens might be icing on top, but if you come home with just some icing and just some cake mix, that ain't the same as coming home with cupcakes.
Yeah, and yeah, just for G23 threw out there that there are flash drives, USB drives you can plug into your phones. Yes, thanks for throwing that out there. I totally forgot I have that. Now I've got one for iPhone. I don't have one for my new phone, but I'm glad he threw that out there. I may actually look into one of those because those are super convenient and eliminate the need for backup purposes anyway, and eliminate the need for having to tote around a laptop or something like that. So thanks for throwing that out
there. So you
there.
plug that into your phone and then your phone just sees
And then,
another drive.
yep, and then just
if it had
transfer it
two
off.
cards.
Yep,
All
just transfer it off. Yeah, absolutely.
And
like I said,
my tip is to buy a SSD drive. Let me see if I can move this little dude over. My SSD drives down here, live down here. You see them sometimes at the beginning of the show. That little dude is 500 gigs of electric storage, and it's about to be purchased another one, and it'll be unplugged, written a date on, and then, you know what I mean? Like those little drives are $50, 500 gigs or whatever. Oops.
Yep.
All right, we're definitely over. We're getting into 2 hours, so I don't know if these things. I mean, we're definitely having good conversations and talking to specific questions that are coming in. We're doing this to kind of archive the experience of SHOT Show in general, and then also to get ready for specifically for people that are getting ready for SHOT Show this year or maybe in the future. So if you're watching this in the future, we'll take a second to talk to you again. If you're watching this as a video, even if this is dated or it's past, you don't have to be confined to the stuff we were talking about here. If something in here gave you another question, or if we missed something, we are supposed to be talking about gear here, and we're kind of letting ourselves go on tangents intentionally. Feel free to ask the question, clarify, and it's not hard to get either one of us to talk about SHOT Show. It is a pretty fun thing, and hopefully we're doing an effort here to portray just what potential it is, or how much potential there is, I guess, of it. What should we do next week? Or is there anything else on that list? Camera, phones, batteries, file storage, internet, sound, lighting, communications. I think internet and phone apps. We haven't even talked about the SHOT Show app itself and some useful phone apps. I think that could be its own show. But as far as carrying, charging, testing, and gear reviews, I'm sure you got maybe a point on any of those before we head off.
No, I mean, I talked a little bit about charging earlier, and I was like, yeah, you can Actually, use a cascading effect for your charging. Just keep that in mind with your battery backups. That's it, I guess.
And what did you mean by that?
Well, like your battery bank is going to have usually two output or two charging ports, right? Like for output. So you could plug two things into it and then plug in your charging cable to it, and you can charge your battery bank while you charge the others. In other words, it's a cascading effect, right? Your battery bank is charging your devices, but you're also keeping your battery bank charged, or you're charging it at the same time as well. I've done
Oh, I
that
see what
multiple
you're saying.
times. Yeah, so you
Not
can
all of
charge
them can do
so
that.
you can charge three things at one time on one outlet or whatever is what I'm telling you.
Okay, not all of. Well, okay. I mean, I misunderstood. You're not saying charge the charger while you're charging the items.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. So some chargers can't do that. Is what I was saying. Some of them, I don't know what it is. They turn off or something, but they
Well, the
can't
ones
charge
I've got,
in.
yeah, all the ones I've got back web or black web or whatever they're called,
That's
and
the
I know that
breakers, or is that a
that's
style?
huh?
I mean, that's not like USB. That's like a brand.
Yeah, it's a brand. It's black web,
Okay.
I think, and I know they do. So
Okay. Well, that's good to know. And then if that's something that's written on the package, or that's something you might want to ask a reviewer, right? Like, hey, is this something that I can charge that can charge while it's being charged? Because I didn't even know that was a. I mean, I assume that's a thing, but I didn't know
right,
that you were depending on it.
right.
So then, as far as what we're going to chat about next week,
I don't know. I don't know.
oh, just Maggie saying some battery banks will get very hot. That's a good point.
They can.
Um,
Yes.
Phones can get super hot. That's for sure. Okay, so we don't have to come up with the item or the what we're going to be chatting about next week, but I do have my list here, my notes. We'll chat off air maybe or something and figure out what we're going to chat about next week. But we'll continue the series. If Clover's still interested, and we'll get back with everybody next Tuesday morning to chat about SHOT Show. Ideally, we should chat for an hour. Tonight we got kind of going. I'm going to blame Nancy Pelosi for making this puppy happen and distracting me. And G23 is saying he sent me an email with a gear setup. Right on. So we'll use that as the beginning of next week. And yeah, we'll be back to big. Oh, you want to talk about the stickers?
Yeah, I guess I can. I think DJ threw that link out earlier. So, yeah, we've got the Ghost and Clover stickers, and let me go see if I can find the link. It is clovertech.com/shot 2023. I'll go ahead and throw that out there verbally before I get a chance because I got to find the link. I got it right here. But yeah, I got the Ghost and Clover stickers out there. For every sticker that you pick up, you get an entry into a $1,600 plus prize package, which includes every stinking thing you need just about as a firearm owner, other than training and practice. You get the handgun, the holster, the belt, the range bag, the ammo, the safety gear, the trauma gear, the everything. So yeah, go check that out and pick up a sticker and get your entry. And for every 5 stickers, you get an extra entry. So just keep that in mind too.
And that's a cool way to accomplish getting there. So if people want to
Yeah.
grab one, then they get an entry into grabbing some stuff. Otherwise, they just get a cool sticker that commemorates, getting some content creators to the show.
Mhm.
And hopefully, it's an inspiration for folks who are. I've seen some comments this today, and obviously in the past where people financial thing is a consideration. I can definitely understand that. It's thousands and thousands of dollars if you have to travel, especially if
Right.
you're staying in a hotel or whatever. I mean, one of the reasons I went with a van for travel the way I do is because I know SHOT Show each year is one of the things, and it's a consideration.
Right.
But like I say, there's ways that you can offset that. There's ways that you can turn it around. We know one person who bragged about one year, I forget what year it was anymore, their hotel room for one night cost more than I spent for SHOT Show completely
Oh yeah.
to drive up there.
Yeah.
And there's, so there's different ways to get there on different budgets and different levels of fanciness or whatever. But uh, next week, bathrooms and where to find them. Well, that's a good point. We could talk about just the functionality. You mentioned a little bit about that, what is it called, the place where the food court in the casino next door. So we could talk about a little bit of. Well, I really want to talk about the second entrance and stuff. So yeah, maybe next week let's talk about navigation, getting around SHOT Show strategies, getting around Vegas. I keep wanting to talk about that too because I want to bring up that shuttle or whatever that thing's called, the monorail, is literally game changer. And this first year with the monorail, I don't think people even realize. Now that people who've been there realize what the monorail offers. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'm crazy. I think that's going to be a game changer. Did you get to go over into the place and see the monorail entrance and go upstairs and stuff?
No, I didn't. Didn't really mess around with any of that.
Okay, so I've got some pictures and stuff, and I'm sure we can find some because it just gives a SHOT Show like two. Anyway, we'll talk about navigation and that kind of thing.
Right.
All right. Well, with that, we're ending it. There's no fancy music or nothing. I'll end it with spanking this puppy. Okay. Have a good night or a good day, everybody. Ghost's got a show later on. You guys are talking about Wanamaker. Chris has a show. You guys are all at Wanamaker this weekend. Chris from 740, I think you jumped in earlier. He'll have a chat on Wednesday about it. Hoping Gizzard will talk about it still on Friday. I'm planning on going live and at some point, and from everybody who's cool with it, just going through the Instagram pictures because like Chris took some amazing pictures of the facility this year. And, I'm sure I could do a whole show just showing off some of the guns and stuff that y'all took. A lot of pictures this year, and we'll see what kind of videos happen. But usually that show is a little easier for photos than video.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Shorts been working out pretty good with shorts. I think it did this go around.
Okay, well, I think somebody needs to go outside, so we're gonna end this thing, and have a good afternoon. Oh, Barbecue's got a show this evening. Today's the evening show. Tomorrow's the daytime show. And then we don't know if Night Strike's got a show. His show is kind of hit or miss.